Let's begin this afternoon with a developing story right now because government and representatives of labor unions are this afternoon locked in a crunch meeting to determine how much more government will pay in base pay. This comes ahead of the 2024 presentation of the budget statement on Wednesday, November 15th. And as we know it, Labour is demanding more than 30% salary increment, which government is yet to consider. Let's take you live there now because Labour correspondent Daniel Opoku earlier interacted with some union leaders.
Going for about 32 or 35%.
It's going to be something very good.
What is something very good as I mean?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. So our people should be relaxed. We are negotiating for them. Everything will be okay. Thank you very much.
Are you getting something better for Labour?
No, definitely negotiations should come up with something better. So we are expecting something better for Labour and for government itself.
So 30% more than that?
I don't want to talk about percentage. Last year we had 30%. Last year we had 30%. And this is negotiations. And you know that if you say better, what do you mean? What is your understanding of better? Improvement on the 30%. Let's see how it goes, please. Let's see how it goes.
And so the Labour Union saying that they want better. Let's take you to that meeting right now. Speak to Daniel Opoku, who's our Labour Affairs correspondent. He's joined us via Zoom. Daniel, many thanks. How has this meeting been coming along?
Right, good afternoon to you, Marina. Yes, as you stated right earlier, currently the meeting is ongoing where you have the leadership of organized labor. You'll also have the leadership of government. Usually when we meet to discuss base pay negotiations, the negotiation from the government side is led by the Sector Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, which is headed by Ignatius Bafwega and his deputy, Right to People. We also have the Chief Executive Officer who is currently in the meeting. And from the Labour side...
Daniel, we're having a bit of a feedback in terms of the noise. If you could just check that for us. You were mentioning the persons from government who are a part of this meeting now.
Is it better now?
We're still getting that feedback from the sound. Let's try one more time and connect with Daniel, who was seeking to explain to us who was present in the meeting. But Daniel, away from who is present, we've heard from labor groups who say they want 30%. Is there a determination as to how much it is that government is offering? We'll try and connect with Daniel shortly. Daniel Opoku is our Labour Affairs correspondent. We'll connect with him shortly when we deal with that challenge right now. And we're staying on this subject matter just a while longer because this is all in relation to the 2024 budget statement to be presented by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. And amongst many things, we're gauging this afternoon the mood of the different sectors in relation to the happening. Let's start first off from Parliament, where Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Komla Kluche has been interacting with some members of Parliament ahead of the presentation tomorrow. He's joining us also right now. Komla, many thanks. You've been speaking to the MPs. The expectation is that the views will be varied.
Yes, of course, a lot of them, and expectant as it might be, on the side of the minority or the NDC MPs, it does appear they do not see anything good at all that the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is going to be given to the legislature and to Ghanaians as a whole. Some have described it as a bye-bye budget. Some said, well, of course, there's nothing new. A lot of them have also indicated, depending also on the committees that they serve and also the areas they come from. For instance, on a Greek committee, some have indicated that they're expecting some more investment into the Greek sector to be able to cushion farmers up, especially cocoa farmers. Now, these are the opinions that they have been expressing.
Komla, we'll hear from the MPs shortly, but a lot from the minority side, who obviously will believe that they will be wanting to win the next general elections. From the side of the government, we know there's been a general admission that things are a bit dire. Are they positive? I mean the majority.
Of course they are. They make the indication that yes, recovery is coming as a result of the IMF bailout. We as a country have missed the second tranche, but they are hopeful that by the close of this month, when they are able to have that agreement with the creditors, they'll be able to get the release of the second tranche of aid. However, policies and structures the government has been able to put in place, they explain, are part of the reasons why they think that this is a recovery path, and to a very large extent, in few months to come, even before the end of the program, Ghana will come back on track. And they are believing that, yes, of course, issues of taxation of taxes have become quite an albatross on the neck of the government,
right,
where many people, especially industry, are expressing that there shouldn't be the imposition of new taxes, while some MPP MPs have equally expressed him, but said there's a need for some pragmatic approach in dealing with some of the challenges. There may be introduction of taxes, but it should not be as draconian as it is, and it should be able to leverage the livelihood of many Ghanaians.
Right, Komla. I was going to ask about the taxes, but it does appear that you've answered that question. So from the majority, just briefly, they are giving indication that there could be new taxes in the budget?
Yes, from the MPs that we have spoken to, there could be. I mean, they are not certain on it, but they get the indication that irrespective of what it is, I mean, if the government needs to come out of the doldrums, there's a need for them to come up with a structured one. There's a need for them also come up with something that is more dealing with the challenges that the country. But they need to also stick with the program of the IMF. And so the IMF will have a very, 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 very good stake in the budget and will also be giving them thumbs up to it. So whether taxes come or not, for them, the most important thing is for them to be able to come out of the economic woes that the country is facing as of now.
Right then, Komla, many thanks. We'll return now to Daniel Opoku. We mentioned to you that there's a crunch meeting happening now between government and the leadership of labor unions. Daniel Opoku is there for us. Let's return. We had an earlier challenge. Daniel, I was asking if government had made an alternative proposal to the labor groups after they demanded 30% increment.
Right. So currently, government has tabled 18%. As of close of yesterday, government began the negotiations with 10% before it moved to 15%. And currently, they have tabled 15%. And Labour also has moved its figure from the current 30% to 45%. So that is where they are currently. And as Labour has gone into a caucus meeting, as government is also expecting Labour to reduce its figure from the current 45% downwards, so that there will be a meeting point that government will be able to pay organized labor. Usually, when you come to negotiations and you table figures, the other party must be able to agree, because it all boils down to the ability to pay. So when government is unable to pay, then clearly means Labour may not be able to get what they want. But judging from what I have seen so far, you can realize it's likely Labour reduce its figure downwards so that it will meet government halfway.
And they could meet government halfway, but is it looking like all of these meetings could come to a head and an agreement will be reached today, considering the budget is tomorrow?
Right. So when you look at the structure of the negotiations, usually they're supposed to have concluded these negotiations somewhere in June. But unfortunately, they are doing the negotiations now. So today they have to conclude that. If they are unable to conclude the meeting today, then it goes back to what happened last year. Last year, government was unable to conclude negotiations with organized labor. So the meeting dragged for about 2 weeks before they were able to agree on 30%. But today, organized labor is very confident they'll be able to conclude the meeting today. So the government will factor that into the budget. So hopefully by close of around 1 or 2 thereabout, they should be able to reach an agreement that will help government to factor that in the 2024 budget.
Right then, Daniel, many thanks for those details. Let's just pick one more thought on this ongoing negotiations. Labor consultant Austin Game is an expert on matters like this. Let's just pick brief thoughts from him. Mr. Game, many thanks for speaking to us. Leaving it this late, won't that pose a challenge in terms of what is expected going forward into the presentation of the budgets tomorrow?
Well, it's obvious that they may face some challenge, but if they work at it, they can be able to resolve it, because they have the capacity. And if they have difficulties, they know what to do. But I think that they are capable.
45% is what we're hearing. Is that feasible from Labour, considering the current difficulties that the government has admitted to?
Well, I know that may be difficult, but in Ghana, as you well know, we pay people based upon CPI, we pay people based upon cost of living, we pay people based upon inflation, and not based on productivity. And that is not the work of Labour. That is the work of management under the law. It's management that, under Section 8 of the law, is to set that agenda. We are not responding positively to the changes that will be required. That is the danger. So what is required now is for the employer, being government, to sit with the organized labor properly by sharing all the necessary information that they have at their disposal, including how much money they anticipate to receive, what are they going to apply the money to, what will be the cost of reduction in the way we do our things in Ghana today. So organized labor will be convinced that they can go along with employers to minimize the danger of plunging the economy into doldrums.
Mr. Game, I appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon. That's Austin Game, he's a Labour analyst, speaking to us this afternoon on expectations of Labour and of expectations of Budget 2024.
Let's head to the Supreme Court now, where the Apex Court has dismissed a case by journalist Ken Kranche seeking to challenge the eligibility of John Dramani Mahama to contest the 2024 polls. The court described the process as filed as defective. Kranche in June 2023 filed the case against Mahama, the former president, John Ejekunkufo, the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General. He contended that a true and proper interpretation of the 1992 Constitution should lead one to the conclusion that the only person entitled to a second presidential term must be a sitting president.
We are extremely grateful to the courts in agreeing with us, and we want to thank the court for this. And as you all heard from the arguments between him and the lawyers for H.E. John Dramani Mahama and the Speaker of Parliament, it was obvious that this process was just for mischief. It was not born out of any genuine desire to, as it were, enrich our constitutional democracy. Nothing whatsoever. On the merits, the procedure, everything is flawed. And that is what the Supreme Court, rightly so, pointed it out to him. As for the other admonition from the Supreme Court to him as a lawyer, I wouldn't want to repeat it.
He actually intimated that he'll be coming back again by doing his homework. So are you ready to engage him?
So he wanted the court to be a forum for learning. I mean, that alone is telling the kind of work he's doing. Thank you.
Lord Edu Asare is a court correspondent. He's joining us now with more on the story. Lord, talk to us about what Ken Kranche has been saying about this case dismissal.
Well, basically, he says that he had discussions with a senior lawyer, and so there's been discussions in that regard. And essentially, he is going to come back. But let me draw your mind to why the Apex Court cited that it was a defective application or writ that he had filed. So counsels for the Attorney General, former President Kufo, and former President Mahama made the argument that he was supposed to have filed that statement of case separately and gotten it stamped at the registry. But in this case, he filed that together with his affidavit together and submitted it. So as it stood, they didn't have any statement of case before the court. But Ken Kranche himself has been responding. Let's listen to him, because he says that he has learned his lessons, and indeed he's ready to come back because he still believes that former President Mahama is not eligible to stand.
Right.
We have been having discussions about this process for about 2 weeks now. This was envisaged as a possible outcome. know, as lawyers, when you come to court, sometimes you win, you draw, sometimes you draw, sometimes you lose. And you take it along in your stride and then go for a better day next time. Today was not my day. I think the next time I'll do better. I'll make sure the process is better than I come again the next time.
The panel is urging you to, as it were, engage a master and probably gain more experience in situations like that. What do you make of that?
I think it is an advice that is well appreciated. I already have a master. We looked at these processes. Sometimes these oversights happen. So that is what it is. If it has happened, we go forward. As I said, after 2nd December, I shall be contesting primaries. After the primaries, I'll have more time. I'll correct the documents and come back.
All right, thank you.
I see, Lord, noting that the Supreme Court dismissed this case based on technicalities, can we confidently say that John Dramani Mahama is out of the woods as far as, the contest is concerned?
Well, as far as we're concerned, yes, Kimini, unless Ken Kranchi decides to go back to the Apex Court to file again, as it stands, former President Mahama has a legal to stand as a flag bearer and essentially the presidential candidate for the MDC.
Or someone else takes up the case. But until then, would assume that he's out of the woods. But we also know that the other thing going on in the courts now is the fact that jurors are on strike, for which reason certain cases that require their services are lacking or are slugging. Talk to us about that incident and how it's impacting cases at the court.
Well, so Kemini, essentially, usually a 7-member jury is appointed, right, or elected to help the presiding judge decide on cases, that are indictable trials such as robbery, manslaughter, murder, and some other matters. Now, as far as we are concerned, our checks here in the capital, jurors are still sitting. In fact, the last I checked yesterday, the case involving Major Mahama, the soldier who was murdered at Dentra Obuasi, jurors are still seated and they are helping the case as it goes through. So although the jury in Kumasi in the Ashanti region are on strike, in the capital here in Accra, they are still working as they should.
Right, Lord, we'll leave it here for now. Thank you for the great reporting. Lord Eduasare there. Coming up now, this Regional Hub. Developing this afternoon, our Regional Hub, criminal cases where the services of jurors are crucial are suffering unusual adjournments in parts of the country after the jurors abandoned their duties. The jurors suspended their services last week, citing delay in the payment of allowances as reason. We're starting the stops in the Ashanti region, where one of such high-profile cases suffered adjournment yesterday over this jury action. The Ashanti region, like I said, is where we are going on. Ibrahim Abubakar is our correspondent on the ground. Ibrahim, talk to us about the impact this action is having on cases, if at all.
Well, Kemini is biting hard because as I speak to you now, since they started absenting themselves from court cases from November 6th till today, they've not been able to attend to 13 criminal cases. And these cases include murders, manslaughter, rape, narcotic cases, and other ones. So 13 of these cases have suffered undue adjournment. And for now, we do not know when exactly they will return for these cases to be resumed. So it's kind of delaying justice in Ashanti region. And we know how these cases take a long time before they conclude it.
Ibrahim, we also mentioned how this has affected one high-profile case. Which case are we talking about, and how are relatives responding to this?
So this is the case involving a police officer in Kumasi who is standing trial for killing his girlfriend. That's Inspector Ahmed Chumesi. Yesterday, families came to court, even though the court was expected to start at 12. They were here by 9, hoping that cross-examination will begin. But at 12 o'clock, when the judge called in the case, all the 7 jurors' names were mentioned, but they were not present. So the case had to be adjourned. Kemini, I have the regional chairman of the jurors here with me, and who will also be shedding more light on this, how this is affecting or delaying justice delivery.
Perhaps, Ibrahim, we could start off with what is causing the strike. Let him shed some light on that.
Okay, so briefly, since November 6th, you've not been attending to court sitting. Why?
Oh, why? Because my jury members, they have managed to come to court with their own money. And it's reached a point, if you put a case on the platform for them to attend to court, they will ask you, Chief, you said we should come to court. What is the allowance? We don't have money to come. And actually, most of my people, I think 3 or 4 of them are on retirement. Once they are on retirement, they will still continue with their cases until all their cases are done before they can come to court again. And they are using their pension money to come to the court. So they warned me, even before legal vacation. They even warned me. And I persuaded with them that, oh, the money will soon come. When we resume, the money still hasn't been received. So we had a meeting that was on the 2nd November, and they told me, point blank, that if I still persuade them to come to the court, they won't come. Then you being the former, you will come.
I see.
So we wrote a letter to the Chief Justice through the supervising High Court Judge in Kumasi. Then we just stopped coming to the court since 6 November.
Are there no consideration, because your people sit on high-profile cases? These are criminal cases that needs to be expedited. Now your members are not coming to court, but it means they will have to drag this case for a long time.
Yes, that is so. That is so. Because even now, before we started the interview, they warned me that if I tell the public that we are resuming, it's me alone that will come. Because if they have paid up to December, I shouldn't tell the public that they are resuming. So I'm here to convene a meeting tomorrow to meet all of them.
So we know you were owed from April till now. Now we are told by have been
my members' account number so that the money will be paid into the account. So, and they are warning me that I shouldn't say that they are resuming because they were expecting more than that. We are in November. Getting next month, December will be the last month of the year, and they have not received a penny within the year. So this one is for 2022. Do you get it?
So they need 2023 as
they
well?
need 2023 as well. But as well, by accountant told me that they are working on it so that we'll get it. But if they still insist that they won't go to court until all those monies are received, there's nothing I can do. I'll try my best. I will try my best.
Okay, thank you, Kemeni. So that is it. The information we had just before this interview was that monies from August 2022 till December have been released. So they were hoping that these jurors will at least suspend the strike, resume whilst they are working for that of this year to come. But like he's saying the members are still bent on abandoning their post because they want all monies released before they come to the courts.
Indeed, Ibrahim, thank you so much for the reporting on this issue, really important issue. I had no idea that, they received allowances, Mawena, and it's good to know that issues like this come to light.
Yeah, and how it's affecting the justice delivery. We know yesterday there was a high-profile case, that Marjwa case. The family were a bit livid that the case could not proceed just because the jurors who, surprisingly, like myself getting to know, they received allowances as a result of that.
True, and I have a ton of questions about how they are selected and, to be on the...
Entire conversation with the Attorney General wanting to scrap this particular system now. And so maybe...
A lot of questions.
Too
many questions. Anyway, what's happening next?
Right, and so we're taking you straight to Parliament now, where the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, is advocating for the adoption of a comprehensive framework to safeguard religious rights and freedoms, particularly for students in public educational institutions. This comes at the launch of the Ghana Parliamentary Caucus of Freedom of Religion or Belief, where Mr. Bagbin laments the numerous instances where students face discrimination based on their religious orientation. He cites the case of teenagers who were refused admission at the Achimota School because of their locks and religious beliefs, adding that there's an urgency in checking that.
A clear regulatory framework that protects individual religious rights and freedoms and defines the responsibilities of publicly financed institutions, particularly in the context of elementary and secondary education.
Well, we're continuing on the religion topic now and taking you live to the Information Ministry, because the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs is justifying a decision to introduce a national policy on religion. Sector Minister Samuel Boateng says the document has become important to regulate religious activities and promote harmony and peace between the various religions in the country.
It has become imperative for a mutual understanding and working together to continue to enjoy the peace in this country. It is in this regard that my ministry has been working with key stakeholders to put together a draft proposed government policy for direction of religion designed to protect the rights and freedom of all of us, regardless of our beliefs or non-beliefs. It has to be understood without any doubt that constitutional guarantees of rights to religion and its beliefs are not absolute and may be subject to some limitations that are prescribed by law and are necessary to protect public safety, public order, public health, morals, or the fundamental rights and freedom of others.
Grace Hajiman is my colleague there. Let's connect with her live right now. Grace, this policy, do we know what it entails?
Such a documented body of policies to regulate religious activities in the country. The ministry says that it considers some issues that have come up when it comes to religious activities in Ghana. Issues of the lack of a succession plan. Usually when the leader of a church or an organization dies, it becomes a main source of misunderstanding among the religious followers, and so they're also looking at that in the law. The ministry is also looking at some beliefs and practices that infringe on the rights of their followers: gender-based violence, early marriages, and money laundering, and some other issues. All of the regulation of all of these activities are going to be contained in the new policy that the ministry is looking at. Currently, the policy is at its consultative level. The ministry is going around the 16 regions to collate ideas from stakeholders, from religious bodies, on how best this piece of law or this piece of policy can be put together to ensure the main objective of the law, which is to ensure peace and harmony, and also already promote the coexistence that we're enjoying between the various religious bodies in the country. So basically, it is not a policy, it is not a bill yet, it is a policy that the ministry is putting together to ensure there's harmony and peaceful coexistence, and also for the protection of the rights of the people who follow these religious leaders.
All right then, Grace, many thanks. That was quite comprehensive. That's my colleague Grace Ajiman, live from the Information Ministry with details on a policy that will guard religion, one that will interest a lot of you and has interest as well for rights protection. But this is still News Central. We're back with Ghana Remembers and a lot more stories if you stay with us.
Happening right now, the governing New Patriotic Party NPP is vetting parliamentary aspirants in orphan constituencies. These are constituencies where the NPP has no sitting member of parliament. The NPP in a statement earlier said the elections in 6 of the orphan constituencies have been put on hold. They are Yilokrobo in the eastern region, Jomoro in the western region, Fomena in the Ashanti region, Ketu North and Akachi North in the Volta region, and Boko Central in the Upper East region. Let's have a quick chat with Duke Opokumensa, who's on ground for us. Duke, thank you so much for covering this and joining us. But talk to us about what's happening there now. Give it another try.
Party atmosphere, cannibal atmosphere here at the shelter at Teshi in the Legislative constituency. So far, the betting of the New Patriotic Party for constituencies, urban constituencies, is taking place here at the shelter. So far, 3 constituencies are down. The betting committee, that is 2 betting committees, are sitting here, and they are betting aspirants from 8 constituencies today, and they will take another 8 tomorrow. So far, 3 constituencies are done. They are done with Kaikwe North, they are done with Lejokuku, and they are done with Protate. These are the 3 constituencies with aspirants that they have vetted so far. And they go through a very simple process. They go before a panel. They answer questions about their eligibility. They answer questions about whether they have mentioned the constituency. And after that, the members of the vetting committee compare notes, and then they give them their result here, there, and then whether they want. After that, the balloting for the election on December 2nd is done right here. So it's more or less like an even process that is taking place here at the shelter. The little constituency that's some of the adherents, people are leading the process. There's a regional chairman, there's not secretary. Also from the national level, there's a national women organizer who is heading one panel, and the general secretary of the party who's also heading another panel.
I see, Duke, I'm afraid we would have to leave it here for now because we are having audio challenges with your connection.
We're taking you live right now to the Tema motorway because in the 2023 budget, as part of the many things which were said by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, was that tolls were going to return there as part of a PPA agreement for the reconstruction of the Tema motorway. George Quinin is my colleague there. Let's just touch base briefly with him as to the situation with regards the tolls there. George, many thanks for joining us. You've been there. Does it look like there is any work taking place at these tolling booths?
Yes, thank you so much, Boyna, for having me. We're coming to one of the toll booths on the Atlantic Road. And as you're aware, before the presentation of the 2022 budget, there was this abolishment of the road toll, and that brought about the headline. And about 37 road tolls across the country, the tolls were scrapped. And so when I got here, I spoke to some of the motorists, and for them, they are welcoming the introduction of the toll system. For them, the revenue that we are getting from the tolling system should be used for the expansion of the roads, and it should not be used for any other project. And some of the questions they want answers to is what will happen to the e-levy, because the e-levy came to fruition after we scrapped off the toll system. But there are some motorists here who are still want to engage them. For instance, before I came for life, if I make their way, say, they toll system
Right. That's George Queenin with a quick update from the Tema motorway area. Right now, it's time for Ghana Remembers. And it is arguably the most topical issue during any electioneering period, job creation. The NPP government did not shy away from the subject in its bid to return to power in elections 2016.
The Nation Builders Corps, shortly known as NAPO, has been very, very beneficial. Of course, why are we saying this? Irrespective that this big scheme is no more. In fact, gone are the days where we have over 120,000 graduates who have completed their mandatory national service, writing application letters to go private.
The Nation Builders Corps program will be a major government initiative to address livelihood empowerment and graduate unemployment to solve economic and social problems.
Well, the Nation Builders Corps program was one measure rolled out to deal with the situation. 100,000 graduates recruited and placed in various modules including Educate Ghana, Revenue Ghana, Heal Ghana, Feed Ghana, Digitize Ghana, Civic Ghana, and Enterprise Ghana. Trainees were paid monthly stipends of some 700 cedis. The program lasted for 3 years with the understanding that trainees would have acquired skills for the job market. Government struggled to pay allowances and still owes trainees. But what does Ghana's unemployment rate look like today? The rate stood at some 3.37% in 2017, worsened to 3.43% in 2018, and by 2021 had hit 3.92%. Youth unemployment has generally seen a checkered trajectory. In 2018, rate in Ghana was 6.53%. By 2020, it had hit 7.34% and currently stands at some 7.14%. And many Ghanaians still do not have jobs. One person who participated in the program that was to create jobs has been speaking, and he believes it was, amongst many things, a waste of precious time.
Shortly known as NAPO has been very, very beneficial. Of course, why are we saying this? Irrespective that this big scheme is no more. In fact, gone are the days where we have over 120,000 graduates who have completed their mandatory national service, writing application letters to both private and public sectors looking for jobs, and then turning our applications down, the frustrations, the sentiments, the difficulties, the hardship that we were going through until this laudable initiative called Nation Builders for NAPO came to redeem some of us from these hardships. NAPO as a scheme, I would say that has done a lot of good, done a lot of harm, irrespective of how our payment system were like.
And so that's Dennis Kateche's president of the NAPCO Trainees Association of Ghana. They say that they are still owed for some months, but the good thing is that a number of them received training to enable them get new jobs. That's it for Ghana Remembers. We're back again soon enough right after this break with a lot more news here on News Central. And so that was Ghana Remembers. I mean, it was a really topical subject. I recall in 2018, was it 2018 when the policy was rolled out and the excitement levels associated with it, the persons who received their stipends after the first few months, they were excited, really were excited about it, Kamini.
Indeed, and here we are again with all the figures and numbers to match.
Old allowances, unfortunately.
Yes, and well, we hope that over the next year, things could get better.
Yeah, hopefully it is cleared, but there's a positive, at least from what the president says, that a number of them have been able to use the training to get jobs for themselves, and so that's
yeah, but you still owe them. You should pay. You don't like paying your debts.
You have to pay. That's really important.
Well, yeah, we hope that the government takes a cue from you. Because you like to pay your debts. We'll be right back with more news. Don't go away. Glad you're still here with us. Now, inflation has dropped for the third consecutive time to 35.2% from 38.1% recorded in September of 2023. Data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows that the decrease in the general inflation rate is being attributed to the marginal drop in food inflation. Food inflation in the period was 44.8%, while non-food was 27.7%. Professor Samuel Kobina Enim is government statistician.
For the month of October 2023, consumer price index stood at 195.2 relative to 144.4 that was recorded for the same time, October 2022. Given these two indices, rate of inflation for the month of October 2023 stood at 35.2, which literally means that between October 2022 and October 2023, prices of goods and services went up by 35.2%. This rate of inflation, which signifies the third consecutive slowdown in the rate of inflation, is 2.9 percentage points lower than the rate that was recorded for September 2023, which had a rate of inflation of 38.1%. We disaggregate this rate of inflation from two perspectives: food and non-food inflation, and locally produced items and imported items. Between food and non-food inflation, food inflation was 44.8% for the month of October 2023, relative to 27.7% for non-food inflation for the same time, October 2023. The slowdown in food inflation is sharper, as it decreased by 4.6 percentage points between September 2023 and October 2023, relative to the 1.6 percentage point drop for non-food inflation, as it declined from 29.3% to 27.7% for the month of October 2023. From a locally produced item and in an imported item perspective, we recorded a 2.6 percentage point drop between inflation for imported items and inflation for locally produced items, with inflation for imported items 37.0% and inflation for locally produced items 34.4%.
It's time to take you to Liberia, where citizens are voting in the second round of elections to choose between President George Weah and former Vice President Joseph Boakai. The two candidates were neck and neck in the first round of voting, but fell short of the 50% needed to secure an outright victory. The former soccer star Weah won 43.83% of the vote against Boakai's 43.44%. In the weeks after the October 10th first round, both candidates actively sought the endorsements of the other small opposition parties. Now, Liberia is still suffering the fallout from the two civil wars between 1989 and 2003 and the 2013 to 2016 Ebola epidemic that killed thousands of people. Edward Blamo is a journalist in Liberia. He now joins us for more on this subject. A quick chat with Edward. Edward, how are things shaping up in the second round of elections?
Things are pretty on course. People are queuing up to vote. Most of the information we've gathered so far is that people are assembling at their various places that they registered to vote. But unlike October 10, during the first round of elections where there was huge turnout, and the National Elections Commission announced 78% of total turnout. But this time around, from what we've heard so far, the turnout is little or lower as compared to October 10th. That was because there was a general election where they were voting for representatives and senators and president. But this one is only for the presidential race, and it's only between two candidates now. So, I mean, one of the reasons why there's no turnout could be that. So, yes, it was a very tight race. The first round was pretty competitive, and the former Vice President Joseph Boakai, who is leading the opposition, and the current President George Weah were neck to neck during the first round. Some of those could be, I mean, there are a lot of reasons stated for that. I mean, the current president has been battling a lot of economic challenges since he took over. He's done some work in terms of infrastructure, but it's been, challenged with the economy and getting things right, creating a lot of jobs. And then the opposition may just, play on those kind of situations and, generate sympathy and generate interest from the public. And that is how come experts say the election was very tight. And going towards this second round, there have been a lot of endorsements. Major opposition figures have cross-carpeted to each of the parties. Joseph Boakai, the vice president, the major opposition leader, has been able to attract a lot of opposition figures. George Weah himself has been able to attract a lot of them. So we're all looking to see what happens.
So much for that reporting. This is a story we'll keep an eye on in subsequent broadcasts, and that of the inflation as well. It's good to know that it's decreasing.
Gradually,
but at a slow rate. Things are still quite expensive.
If you go onto the street, I'm not sure a lot of people will see that it's declining. They still feel that things are a bit expensive.
Yeah.
And, the entire conversation about CD and all of that, what we will expect by the end of the year and all that. So it's good. At least it can see to a reduction in the policy
It's good
rates
if it's true. That's also something we need to look at.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, because if we don't see it in how things are changing on the market, then we have to question those figures.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I am Kemeni Amano. We hope you loved our package today.
I am Mawina Egbet. As always, a lot more news if you log on to 3news.com. We're back again tomorrow with some more news.
Bye-bye for now.